Welcome back to Tech Talks from Commercial Baking. In this episode, sponsored by AZO, I'm speaking with Kevin Pekka, sales manager for AZO, and we are discussing ways to achieve consistency in baking operations. Hi, Kevin. Thanks so much for joining me today.
How are you? Glad to be here.
Okay, so first, let's just talk about what we mean by consistency. And I'm thinking of it in two ways in terms of product consistency, but then also the AZO approach to consistency.
Consistency for a baker helps him to produce the same quality dough time after time without having to set up his downstream equipment every time there's a different batch. Sometimes what we're seeing is doughs that are wet, doughs that are dry. It affects all of the downstream equipment from the mixer all the way through the sheeting and the proofing and everything, and affects their final quality product at the end. And although consistency is not the same as accuracy, it allows you to produce the same quality dough as you're moving your target closer to the accuracy point. And that way you get both accurate and consistent batches time after time.
We often think of consistency in terms of the product quality and the finished product, but it is so important to focus on consistency in the entire operation, right? Just like you said, it affects the equipment downstream. I'm kind of curious about why that is so important, but also what does the size of the operation have to do with it?
It would be more important for a small baker to compared to a large baker because a small baker has so much money tied up in each batch. And if he is inconsistent, he ends up throwing away or he's spending more and more time trying to fix every batch that's different. A larger baker, if he sees inconsistencies, might spend more of his time trying to bring consistency together or accuracy together, or he might just find a way to push through the product so that he can make a large quantity at one time. Small bakers tend to have more riding on the line. If he doesn't make a good batch, he loses customers. So he wants to make it the right way every time.
That's true, and I was actually just talking to a baker the other day, and she was telling me, the beauty and the curse of baking is that you don't see what's wrong until the product is finished, and then at that point, it's too late. So, when it comes to consistency, what does AZO factor in when you're looking at consistency and helping a bakery operation stay consistent with their product and with the equipment and the operation. And I'm thinking in terms of things like ingredient handling, scaling, mixer system controls. How do you all help bakers keep everything going in the same way?
We're seeing a lot of bakers that are still under a lot of manual operations. And what we try to encourage is the use of bag dumps with screeners and magnets to prepare the ingredients and store the ingredients prior to actually weighing them for use in the mix. And doing so, you end up getting a more consistent weighment rather than an operator just opening a 50-pound bag and trying to dump 100% of it out, which you never get all of it out of the bag. And so if you can store it temporarily before you put it into the batch, into the mixer, then you can be more assured of getting a consistent batch from one to the next. Plus, you have the ability to prepare that ingredient through sifting to make sure you don't have agglomerations, you don't have any paper that sometimes happens when you tear open a bag. Can also look at certain properties of those ingredients so that if they're hygroscopic, you can put dehumidified air on it so they stay fresh longer. You can do lot tracking through your software. You can do batch tracking, which is required by FISMA. And everything becomes a lot easier for the baker because now he has everything under control and he can use less labor in doing his production so that because all he needs now is somebody to fill the hoppers up. He doesn't need them to have to hand weigh everything out.
And this becomes a game changer when a smaller operation is ready to scale up into this automation, right?
That's correct. But even a smaller baker could still take some steps towards becoming more and more automated. Even if it's hand weighed ingredients, preparing those using the power of the computer to store all of the data. And then when he does put it into the mixer, uh, all of that data goes with it and can prepare the right documentation so that they don't have to do it by hand. So, yes, it's very important to let the computers do what the computers do best.
So once a baker figures out that end game and they're ready to get started in incorporating this type of automation into their systems, what does installation look like for AZO customers? And what do you all do to help train the bakers?
Training is one of those things that we provide with our systems a lot of installation supervision. And as part of that, we instruct our end users on how the equipment works, how to go about disassembling or cleaning for that equipment. It's made in such a way, we try to put it into the design of the system to make equipment easily accessible and have easy ways to get in and clean should they need to disassemble it and take it apart. And we show that to our end users before we leave the system.
Okay, that's awesome. That's really great customer service. And then, like what you said, then you leave the system and then the bakers are kind of on their own. What does support look like from AZO's perspective in terms of maintenance, continuous improvement, long-term efficiency? How do you continue working with your customers long after installation?
Well, like we talked about having a game plan up front,
Mhm.
we always continue to go back and talk to our customers that put in the first phase to find out when they're going to be ready to start putting in the next phase. And we work with them all the way. And we've had some systems in operation for 20 years. And what we're finding is that as time changes, the recipes change, the frequency of batches change, and they're always finding that we find a way to identify the bottlenecks, find a solution for the bottlenecks, and they can increase their efficiency on that. We've gone from 600,000 to over 1 million pounds a day in one particular mix plant by debottlenecking different things as their recipes and as the pressure for production has increased. So if we can do it for one, we can do it for others too.
Things are obviously going to change. Do you think that the way consumer demand is changing so rapidly that bakers need to really stay on top of the operation, on top of their automation, and in contact with you to be ready for those changes that they didn't intend on? Because we learned a few years ago during the pandemic that things can change drastically on a dime. Do you think bakers are more aware of that now than they were before? And do you think that equips them to work with you?
I hope it does, but I think that bakers are so focused on what's happening inside their walls that they often don't see that what's happening outside has changed. The industry is moving in different directions. The trends are changing a little bit, and they hear about it maybe after it's already mainstream. But we'd like to work with our customers, and we recommend our customers stay abreast of what's happening in the market. The moves over the last several decades have been pretty significant in terms of how things are getting done today than they were in the past, and we're finding that the end product is better than it ever used to be.
So I guess my only question left would be, what is the best way for a baker to learn more about how AZO can help them achieve better consistency in their bakery operation?
The first thing is to look us up on the internet. Call me. There should be some information supplied in this tech talk as to how to reach us. I'd be more than happy to talk to you and more than happy to discuss how we can start setting a plan up to reach the goal that you want to have at your bakery.
That's awesome. Kevin, thanks so much for taking time to talk to me today. It's always a pleasure speaking with you and hearing about the latest technology and innovation that is available from AZO. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.